Great minds of humanity, celebrating human brilliance.
Before most people had ever seen electricity do more than glow inside a bulb, Nikola Tesla stood in a wooden laboratory in Colorado Springs while man-made lightning cracked above his head, chasing a dream so audacious that it sounded like prophecy. Power without wires, engines without smoke, and a world connected through invisible energy. Within a few decades, ideas born in Tesla's mind would help turn night into industry, water into horsepower, and spinning magnetic fields into the silent labor of modern civilization. Yet the man behind those transformations would spend his final years nearly alone, feeding pigeons and guarding unfinished visions that still haunt technology today. He was not a wizard, not a myth, and not merely Edison's rival, but a disciplined, difficult, brilliantly visual thinker whose imagination leapt so far ahead of his century that history has spent generations trying to decide whether Nikola Tesla was an engineer, a showman, or a glimpse of the future itself. When Tesla arrived in New York in 1884, with little money, a head full of designs, and a recommendation letter that praised him as a man of extraordinary ability, he stepped into a raw industrial city where fortunes were made by speed, patent battles, and public spectacle, and where his elegance would contrast sharply with the chaos around him. America would soon know him through the bitter war of currents, a contest over whether the modern electrical age would run on Edison's direct current or on Tesla's alternating current. And that technical argument would become a drama of power, fear, public relations, and the shape of everyday life across the planet. Tall, impeccably dressed, astonishingly articulate, and capable of performing electrical demonstrations that look like stage magic, Tesla cultivated celebrity while insisting that his real work happened in the private theater of his mind, where he claimed he could build machines in perfect detail before ever touching metal, wood, or copper. Nikola Tesla was born on 10 July 1856 in the village of Smiljan, in the military frontier of the Austrian Empire, during a violent summer storm that later inspired family legend. And from the beginning, his life would be framed by a tension between darkness and illumination, discipline and imagination, inheritance and rebellion. His father, Milutin, was a Serbian Orthodox priest, gifted in language and memory, while his mother, Duka, had never received formal schooling, yet could design labor-saving household tools with her hands and intuition, giving the young Tesla a model of intelligence that was at once verbal, practical, inventive, and relentless. As a child, Tesla displayed an intense visual imagination, episodes of blinding flashes of light, and a memory so precise that he could retain whole books. But he also suffered from compulsions, sensitivities, and vivid inner images that made the boundary between observation and invention feel unusually thin. After studying in Karlovac and then falling gravely ill with cholera as a teenager, he extracted from his worried father a life-defining promise that if he survived, he would be allowed to pursue engineering, turning recovery itself into a kind of contract with destiny. At the Austrian Polytechnic in Graz, Tesla worked with ferocious intensity, reportedly studying from early morning until deep into the night. And when he saw a Graham machine operating as both motor and generator, he became obsessed with eliminating the sparks and commutators that limited efficiency, an obsession that would mature into his greatest breakthrough. Yet brilliance did not protect him from collapse, because exhaustion, conflict with professors, and a destructive turn toward gambling unraveled his academic path, leaving him brilliant but unstable, a young man already learning that insight alone could not guarantee structure, reputation, or survival. In Budapest in 1882, while walking in a city park and reciting lines from Goethe with his friend Anatol Szigeti, Tesla suddenly saw in his mind the rotating magnetic field, a way to make alternating currents create smooth rotary motion, and he traced diagrams in the dust as if the future had appeared on the ground. Work for the Continental Edison Company in Paris and later in Strasbourg gave Tesla practical experience with dynamos, lighting systems, and field repairs. But just as importantly, those years let him test his ideas against real machinery, convincing him that the motor he had first seen in imagination could become a working industrial reality. In New York, Tesla briefly worked for Thomas Edison, improving generators and troubleshooting equipment. But the famous story of an unpaid bonus captured a deeper truth than the exact dollars involved. Because the two men represented opposite engineering temperaments, Edison trusted iterative trial, while Tesla trusted complete conceptual design. After leaving Edison's company, Tesla endured one of the harshest reversals of his life, including failed business arrangements and manual labor digging ditches for low wages. A humiliating descent that could easily have buried his career had a few investors not recognized the value inside his stubborn, mathematically elegant alternating current system. In 1887 and 1888, Tesla secured a remarkable cluster of patents covering polyphase alternating current motors and transmission systems, then delivered a lecture before the American Institute of Electrical Engineers that electrified experts, because he was not offering a clever gadget, but an integrated architecture for generating, transmitting, and using power at scale. George Westinghouse saw the opportunity immediately and licensed Tesla's patents, setting the stage for the war of currents in which alternating current, though more dangerous if mishandled, proved vastly superior for long-distance transmission and became the backbone of electrification, despite smear campaigns, stage fear, and intense commercial warfare. At the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago, visitors walked through a dazzling environment of alternating current light that transformed abstract engineering into public wonder, and Tesla, moving calmly through halls filled with lamps, coils, and motors, became the human face of a new technological order that felt both rational and theatrical. The real victory came when Tesla's system helped harness Niagara Falls, where immense turbines converted rushing water into electrical power for Buffalo and beyond, proving that his rotating field was not merely an inventor's dream, but a continental engine capable of turning geography itself into organized, repeatable energy. Tesla refused to stop at motors and power stations, and in 1898, he unveiled a radio-controlled boat at Madison Square Garden, astonishing spectators who struggled to imagine invisible signals steering a machine, while he recognized in teleautomation the earliest outline of robotics, remote weapons, and a world where intelligence could move without direct human touch. In Colorado Springs in 1899, Tesla built a giant experimental station to probe high-voltage resonance and wireless transmission, producing spectacular electrical discharges that made him legendary. Yet beneath the theatrical imagery, he was methodically investigating frequency, grounding, atmospheric effects, and the possibility that Earth itself could become part of an electrical system. Convinced that wireless communication and perhaps wireless power could reshape civilization, Tesla persuaded financier J.P. Morgan to back the construction of Wardenclyffe on Long Island, a towering project meant to leap beyond telegraphy toward a planetary network of messages, signals, synchronization, and perhaps energy delivered through the air. But Wardenclyffe demanded more money, clearer business logic, and better timing than Tesla could supply. And as Marconi advanced with simpler radio systems while investors grew wary, the Great Tower became a monument to the dangerous gap between visionary engineering and the unforgiving arithmetic of capital. Even as financial pressure mounted, Tesla remained a celebrated public intellectual who dined elegantly spoke about future technologies with eerie accuracy, and also displayed compulsions around cleanliness, numbers, and routine, reminding observers that the same concentrated mind that generated astonishing foresight could make ordinary social life difficult and increasingly fragile. Though many later inventions emerged through the work of countless engineers, Tesla's core contributions to polyphase power, alternating current motors, high-frequency experimentation, and remote control helped establish the technical vocabulary from which the 20th century built factories, appliances, transit systems, communications networks, and the electrified rhythms of daily existence. In his later decades, Tesla moved between New York hotels, announced bold new concepts that were often underdeveloped or unsupported, and found companionship in the pigeons he fed near Bryant Park, creating an image both heartbreaking and unforgettable. The once triumphant prophet of electricity, living amid bills, memories, and unresolved ambitions. He died alone on 7 January 1943 in room 3327 of the New Yorker Hotel, after which government officials examined his papers because wartime authorities feared strategic secrets. A final episode that deepened the aura around him, even as historians continued the slower work of separating proven achievement from speculation and legend. After his death, the rise of electronics, radio history debates, the naming of the SI unit Tesla, and a broader cultural hunger for neglected geniuses gradually restored his stature, until the man once treated as an eccentric footnote came to symbolize inventive daring on a planetary scale. Tesla's life teaches that imagination matters most when it can be translated into systems that other people can build, maintain, finance, and trust, because his greatest triumphs came when visionary insight met industrial execution, while his greatest disappointments appeared when those forces drifted apart. It also reminds us to resist the lazy habit of turning complex thinkers into saints or martyrs. Since Tesla was genuinely brilliant, occasionally difficult, sometimes impractical, often ahead of available tools, and most interesting precisely when we see him clearly. A human being whose mind changed the world without ever fully mastering it. If Tesla's story changed the way you see invention, leave a comment with the idea of his that fascinates you most. Share this documentary with someone who loves history and science, and subscribe to Great Minds of Humanity for more cinematic journeys into the lives that built our modern world.